I have a vague recollection of this one TV series from 1989. It was called Alienation, and it was a police procedural show based on a buddy cop film of the same name. It follows the story of two cops, a human and an alien, in the near future of the year 1990. Look at those prosthetics. Like, you're never gonna see a primetime TV show like this again. That being said, I never actually watched it. I mean, I was a literal child, it wasn't for me. But I did see one scene of it by accident. And what are the odds? It's probably the most infamous scene from that show. The alien cop's alien wife is pregnant, and she takes the baby out of her, and then he puts it in his body to finish the pregnancy, because that's how those kind of aliens work. And in the middle of the baby trade-off, they take a piece off the gestating fetus and eat it. Despite never really watching the show and only having a vague understanding of what's even going on when I saw it, that scene stuck with me for the rest of my life. And then when I eventually learned that some women eat the placenta when they give birth, that was the first thing I thought of. In fact, when I hear about it, that's still the first thing I think of, which is why it's in this video. Well, if you were disturbed by that image, I got something even better for you, and this one's real. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the tale of the afterbirth jerky. Alright, before we dive in, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor today, fishtank.live. If you've been lurking around online as long as I have, you've probably occasionally stumbled across a strange website. The kind of websites that make you feel like you're somewhere you're not supposed to be. Imagine this. One night you find the strange website, and it's a house's security feed. But for some reason, there's cameras inside the bedrooms. People live in this house. And you get to watch them cook breakfast, tell secrets, argue with each other. You might even catch someone falling down a flight of stairs. What is Fish Tank? It's kind of like Jersey Shore for people who use VPNs. Fish Tank Live is a 24/7 smart house where you, the viewer, get to monitor and interact with actual humans in real time. A group of extreme weirdos locked in a house for 42 days with nowhere to hide from the viewers. No script, no privacy, just real people left to their own devices. And you get to decide what happens. Guys, season 3 of Fish Tank goes live on October 27th. So if you're a little weird, maybe you want to watch people sleep. Maybe you want to spam people with mariachi music at 4 a.m. Maybe you're a little sick in the head. You're personally invited to come see season 3 live. There's a big twist this season and you cannot afford to miss it. Go to fishtank.live, and if you create an account with the secret code WANG, you get 1000 XP and a TTS token. Yeah, a free TTS token on the house. Thanks again to fishtank.live for sponsoring this video. Eating the placenta is a practice that has a long history in certain parts of the world. Although there's debate among historians over how prevalent it actually was, there's incidents of it documented as far back as a few hundred years BC. Technically called placentophagy, which reminds me of the movie Anthropophagus, where they don't just eat the placenta, they eat the whole baby. In the US though, it first became a trend in the 70s, with people citing health benefits like a restored hormone balance, better mood, increased milk production. Critics of course say there's no evidence that any of this is true. And since during pregnancy the placenta acts as a big filter to keep the baby safe from disease and whatnot, some people say you're basically eating a giant disease sponge. And there's been cases where people have gotten sick from it, most notably one where a newborn got strep on multiple occasions, and was eventually traced back to contamination in placenta pills that its mother was eating. Since then, the CDC has begun to advise against eating the placenta. You know, who really cares what the CDC thinks? People are going to eat it regardless, and it's a trend that comes and goes throughout the years. Most recently, it was getting popular in 2013 or so when celebrities like Kim Kardashian were doing it. And of course, when you've got a new sort of gross trend in the early 2010s, you've also got, of course, some incredible posts. You know, I mean, of course, us millennials, we love to be foodies. We love a good $20 burger on a square plate with a knife in it. So you can't just eat the placenta straight up. You got people getting fancy with stir-fry recipes and scrambled eggs and whatnot. But a lot of times, having a placenta laying around at home just doesn't go as planned. A book about midwifery I read had a story about how she delivered a placenta that was unusual in appearance at a home birth. She wanted to research it a bit and took it home, flattened it out, wrapped it in plastic, and stuck it in her freezer. Her teenage son thought it was a frozen pizza, which came home to the house smelling like a wild animal because he was heating it in the oven. Nobody ate it, but that has to be a funky aroma. You also had this one couple that kept their placenta and they weren't planning to eat it. What they were gonna do is they were gonna dig a big hole in the yard, bury the placenta, and then plant a tree on top of it. So then the tree grows with the child. It's actually kind of a cute idea. But they're so busy with the newborn baby, they don't really have time to go dig a hole in the yard, so the placenta lays around for a bit. Then one day, they get home and the placenta is missing. They're looking around for it and they find their dog sitting in the corner. He's really happy, and he's got a mysteriously placenta-shaped belly. That dog probably thinks about this feast every single day of its life. If he could tell his friends about it, they wouldn't believe him. And it's not just women and dogs hopping on this trend. You had a woman on Reddit whose husband wanted to eat it, thinking that the stem cells would help his injury. But as much as I like to think that the reason why Rey Mysterio Jr. is now moving around like he's in his 20s again is that he was sitting in a hospital in Mexico just snacking on placentas, people in the comments were quick to note that stem cell therapy doesn't actually work like Christopher Reeves on South Park. Although, you know, it's still not as outlandish of a theory as that Irish guy that injected cum into his arm to fix his back pain. People also noted that whatever benefits may or may not exist for a woman eating the placenta, they definitely don't exist for the husband. In fact, some theorize, I don't know if this is true or not, but some theorize that eating the placenta as a man might actually be like taking a giant estrogen pill. Dude's gonna wind up like Ranma. And now, while you see a lot of people who are posting their best placenta and egg recipes, in general, the people who are really serious about the health benefits aren't doing meals. What they do is they have their placenta dehydrated and put into capsules that they take over a period of 90 days or so. There's a lot of companies that provide this service, but there's also a lot of people that advise doing it yourself. And one Redditor named Puta Gatito documented the whole process. My doctor let me take home my placenta. Now I eat a little bit every day. The way she worded it, I pictured the placenta sitting on her counter and she occasionally takes a few bites of it. And attached is an imager album that goes into a lot more detail. And there's the placenta right there. Actually, kind of looks like Squidward if he was in pain. 4 months into her pregnancy, she decided she wanted to eat the placenta, but she wasn't really interested in the health benefits. She was just curious about what it would taste like. Only after looking into it did she find that there actually may be some health benefits. But still, as you can see from her Snapchat post, she's still having fun with it. At first, she was considering going to one of the pill companies that I mentioned before, but like a lot of people, she found that it was just more than she wanted to pay. She was also kind of grossed out by the idea that her placenta was going to go on machinery that all these other placentas went on. Like the lab techs are just stacking them up.
Because he can eat any more pancakes than any man alive?
And a lot of people in the comments section were like, wait, that's the thing that grossed you out? So if you're going to make placenta pills, first you gotta dehydrate the placenta. So she decides she's gonna borrow her mother's food dehydrator. Although I imagine that after this, her mother will just let her keep it. Now she has the equipment, she quickly realizes that she has no idea what she's doing. But that placenta ain't getting any fresher, so there's no turning back now. You can't just plop the whole placenta down on the food dehydrator, it's not gonna work. First, you gotta gut it like a Thanksgiving turkey. She removes the umbilical cord and cuts it open, and it kinda looks like a watermelon. And with that caption she put, "Eat me, eat me," I can't help but think of 1988's The Abomination. But those watermelon seeds you got there, those are actually blood clots. She removes the seeds and notes that it smells like a mix of raw pork and, of course, a lot of blood. She's not quite sure what to do next, so she decides to just cut them into little strips like she would if she was making fajitas. Which actually, according to the DIY guide I found, is what you're supposed to do. Although the guide I found also recommended adding lemon and ginger. It's probably kind of nice. She begins dehydrating the pieces and they start to look exactly like Chinese boneless ribs. But as they're dehydrating, she realizes that the pieces she cut are too thick to fully dehydrate. So she cuts them in half and then she manages to fit everything. With her placental mise en page now complete, she decides to move it. I placed the dehydrator in the garage in anticipation of the odor. An hour and a half in, there was surprisingly no smell at all. Unfortunately, the smell did come. The smell was like dry cat/dog food. It wasn't terrible, but if you walked by my house, it definitely smelled like I had 20 cats in my garage minus the pee smell of cat hoarding. The whole process took 4.5 hours. And when it was complete, she noted that it was very rubbery, even more so than beef jerky. She then cleans the dehydrator and puts it back in the cabinet for future use. And she notes that it was easier to fully clean than she expected. But I feel like no matter how good you clean that, it's gotta still impart some kind of flavor. I just think of that guy that was like, wow, why does everything I cook in my slow cooker taste amazing? And then he opens it up and finds a bunch of dead lizards inside the heating element. In any case, we're done with the food dehydrator now. It's time to grab the coffee grinder. She quickly discovers that grinding up the placenta bits makes it smell even worse. And because of that smell and the rubbery texture, she was kinda worried that eating this would make her sick. So she decides to go full Anderson smoke show mode and wraps a baking sheet in foil and bakes the afterbirth grinds.
This is gonna make for some easy cleanup.
Terrible idea. Since it was so finely ground, it started smoking almost immediately. My house reeked for 3 days. But despite the smell and the burning, it actually turned out fine. She says that she takes one a day and they work amazingly. Although people in the comments were like, work amazingly how? What does it do? And they weren't satisfied with any of the answers they got. In general, the response was kind of varied. I find the science behind the claimed benefits to this to be questionable. Also, possibly insane. Placebo. But hell, what do I know? I'm just a biologist. You had other people that did think the benefits were real, but she ruined them by cooking the nutrients out. Others were just grossed out. You're a fucking disgusting lunatic. No offense, but seriously, what the fuck is the master with you? That you would even think of doing this, let alone follow through. If my wife did this after having a loss, I'd probably try to get custody of the kid and get her the help she obviously needs. My fiance just gave birth on October 9th. It was not beautiful or amazing. It was horrifying. Watching it happen has given me nightmares since. The doctor pulling the placenta out of her was even worse than the birth. At no point during or after the birth did either of us think, let's eat that stuff that just came out of you. This post has made me sick. May FSM have mercy on your soul. Goddamn, I totally forgot flying spaghetti monster was the thing. And some people pointed out that this is actually relatively common. Back in the late 80s/early 90s, I worked in a photo lab. The amount of photos I processed that showed people cooking and eating placenta as a family meal after the birth of a baby was not as uncommon as I'd hoped. Hey, you go girl, you're amazing. Hey, you go girl, you're amazing. This is a very common practice. Placenta is what keeps a baby healthy in the womb. Why wouldn't she make capsules out of it? It gave a baby all the nutrient for 9 months, and it's so good. It's so normal. I had a C-section and forgot to ask about it beforehand, so it was gone before I remembered. I am doing this with my next child, and I am so glad you did it. Tires keep me healthy on the road, but I don't want to eat them. People also noticed that in this time period, she had posted a r/cooking asking for chicken liver recipes. And while at first you might think, oh, that's just some kind of a coincidence, when I was researching this video, I noticed so many people saying that the placenta tastes like a chicken liver. So maybe she was trying to figure out how to cook it then. More than anything though, it seemed like people were mostly just disappointed that even though her original intention was to just eat it out of curiosity, and despite it at one point looking like a succulent Chinese meal, she never actually ate the placenta chunks. Seriously, cook that shit like a steak. I felt like OP just kept trying every method possible to avoid doing direct consumption. This is like some half-hearted attempt between being edgy and being a giant pussy. Wait, P. Hubens, I know that guy. Actually, I'm gonna shout out his game UFO 50 because I was playing it last night and it's really good. So if that's where you're at right now, 2016 Jason Blaha has something for you.
Fake natty Aaron Curtis, somebody who's been on my radar for a little while, decided to eat his wife's placenta for gains.
I thought I better cook it and wash off some of the slime before I eat it to minimize the chance of dying.
Entree of his daughter's placenta.
Tastes like liver, I think.
Liver?
That is some seriously disgusting shit.
Anyway, that's all for now. If you like this video, turn on notifications and check out my video about the Chinese guy eating a baby. I'm out.